Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name's James Thomas with Noise Barriers. We're going to be talking about our QuietPerf sound absorption systems today. Been with Noise Barriers for 6 years and am currently the territory manager for the Midwest and West regions. So our QuietPerf sound absorption panels come in 2 and 4 inches thick as the standard. We can create panels wider in most cases to 3-inch or even 5-inch if needed. We prefer to make them out of galvanized steel, though we do have customers who request stainless steel and aluminum finish. They can be flat or V-ridged, bagged or unbagged, and we can provide an airspace behind them for noise reasons if required. We do have some ASTM E84 flame and smoke tests and have, I think, 7 different acoustic test reports that can be located on our website. For a 2-inch panel, our standard sizes range from 18 to 48 inches in about 6-inch increments. This is due to our folding capabilities here at our shop in North Aurora. And you can see for a 3-inch thick panel as well as a 4-inch thick panel that those standard sizes would decrease as the 4-inch or 3-inch leg would become longer than the 2-inch. We can make panels to custom widths if required. Typically, we try and stick to the standard sizes for the long lengths, and then at the very end of the length, we would make a custom panel with the remainder of the length left over. Most typically, we're providing these panels flush against the wall, though in some cases, if a greater NRC is required, we can provide them at a 2-inch and 4-inch offset. We use a multitude of different brackets, some of which provide a concealed look, some of which give the maximum space allowed in the height and width. And we also have different bracketry depending on if you're running long lengths or stacking them on top of each other for a high wall. To the right here, you can see that there is a gap in between the bottom panel on the top row, in the top panel on the bottom row, and that we used a hat channel, piece of hat channel there. So it's a 1-piece joiner. Here's some details showing those different views. These are 3 images. I'll talk first about the image on the far left. This would be our standard configuration with J's and Z's. Panel would be set into the bottom J, and then a top Z would be placed and drilled into the wall. The middle, or second from the left detail, would again show a J at the bottom. And it's almost like a concealed J at the top, but there is a 1-inch air gap located there so that you can mount all of the joiners first and then come back through and slide the panel up into the top J, then seat it down into the bottom J, and it's still held in place. And then on the right image, you'll see the 2 different types of offset bracketry we use, and that shows the 2-inch offset as well as a 4-inch offset. The NRC difference between these two, it ranges from 0.95 to 1.3, depending on the thickness of panel and the thickness, the distance of offset behind the panel. We do have applications where the QuietPerf needs to be mounted onto the ceiling. In those applications, we use a Z to hold them in place on one end, and we can use that hat channel down the middle to string them together. Again, this helps with the number of pieces of joiner required on site, as well as the number of fasteners and time to take to install these panels on site. We can do suspended ceilings. You can see in the bottom image there, we would hang these from a ceiling grid hanging wire, and similar to the hat channel, we would use a piece of joiner at each of those locations to suspend the panels along the lengths. And then we would use bag fill on top and seat that fill right on top of the panel. Our perf standard is 3 30-seconds and 3/16 for a 22% open. That's about 41%. We do finish these in a powder coat finish. We can get into the textured, the clear coating, the matte finish as required. We can even provide them G90 if required. Here you'll notice this is at a wastewater treatment facility. You can see that they're using 2-inch wall panels, and they have a 2-inch offset. It's a pretty clean look. This particular case, you can see that they went with a concealed joiner, so there's no continuous joiner along the top or the bottom. Each panel is individually mounted, so it gives it sort of an aesthetic look as you're walking down those pumps there. As for each individual panel, to meet spec and the different acoustic and aesthetic requirements, we can provide the panels with open ends, the end caps, V-ridges. We can 4-side fold them, hang them, suspend them like clouds, really create any sort of system or any sort of aesthetic that the architect is requiring on site. We do have our standards, but we are a custom shop and we provide a lot of custom applications, so we're willing to work with our customers when needed. The pictures here, you can see you have some on the top row. Again, each individual panel has its own joiner, so you have that nice aesthetic gap in between each panel. Whereas down at the bottom, you have the opposite. You have 2 long stretches of joiner at the top and bottom, and each of those panels are then offset from the wall along the entire linear length with no gap between the panels. Here's just a couple more images here, again showing you the different application and the different looks you can get with the panels. On the far left, you can see there's an exhaust testing enclosure. We have the V-ridge panel, where you can see each one of those panels has a slight V folded into every 4-inch, I believe, increments along the panel length. In the middle picture, we have again some QuietPerf panels inside of a factory. You can see these were mounted with an offset as well. And then on the right, these are blue panels that were provided at our noise barriers office in Libertyville a few years ago. And these were in a big open foyer area where there was lots of noise bouncing around on the walls. We mounted these panels on both sides of our lobby, and it really helped with the sound. So just to recap, Noise Barriers is a custom provider for acoustic materials. These QuietPerf panels we see in architectural and industrial applications. They typically range from 2 to 4 inches thickness and can be made in lengths anywhere from 24 inches to 144 inches long. They can be V-grooved or flat and made in a variety of materials as well as finishes. We have all of our test reports and test data, as well as some write-ups and additional pictures located on our website. If you guys have any questions whatsoever when working on a project or an existing project or need more information, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Thank you all for your time. Have a great rest of your week.